Good morning. So for those of you who don't know me, I'm Kelvin Su, Executive Vice President at YTI. And just give me a few seconds here, we're just trying to get my display up. So today I will talk to you guys about a little bit about what we're doing here in Cebu, what we've been doing over the better part of the last year, how we partner together with our customer, Renee Howard, who just spoke before me, and also with VA Group, which Peter will speak after me. Okay. So during the mid-18th century, we saw the textile industry give birth to the first industrial revolution. This took place in Great Britain, and I would say it was a major turning point for people's lives at this time, major turning point in history. People's lives became much easier, average incomes climbed, return on investment grew exponentially, productivity increased at an unprecedented rate. It was a time where we saw cool inventions like the spinning jenny, the power loom, mass production of things like iron, ore, steel. I've lost my notes, please. We also saw pretty cool things like, over the next 150 years, saw pretty cool things like continued advancements in manufacturing technologies, development of interchangeable parts, the rise of the factory concept, mass production pioneered by Henry Ford, and widespread adaptation of technology. And while all this was happening, there was huge expansion of rail and telegraph lines, which act as a massive catalyst for all of this advancement. Then, after that, there was the Second Industrial Revolution. Followed shortly after that, it was essentially Industry 1.0 on steroids. After that, we had the Third Industrial Revolution. It's what we might hear today as Industry 3.0. This took place about 100 years later. It was essentially the introduction of computers, the internet, digitalization of our business, ERP systems, production tracking tools, GPS, wireless technology, automation, 3D printing, all these things. And all these things pretty much took place right under our noses in the last 30 years. So before we even realized that all this technology had come upon us. And thanks to today's technology and today's communication tools, the world is changing at such a fast pace. I mean, the rate at which it is changing is exponential. And so what this means is that over the last 100+ years or so, the kind of things that have, the amount of advancement that's taken place compared to the last 30 years is so small compared to what we've done over the last 30 years. So just as I mentioned earlier, just about every industry has been impacted by this advancement in technology, advancement in industry. I'm going to give you a couple examples of what we've seen from 100 years ago to today. So the photos on our left here, or on your left in black and white, are from about 100 years ago, early 1900s. So this is the food industry. Actually, I don't know how many of you guys are familiar with the food industry, but they're one of the leaders today in automation. Their industry is heavily automated. Second one here is a bottling industry. Also, we know somebody who operates a bottling factory, and this is not exaggeration. You go in, turn on the switch, and starts filling bottles and producing bottled drinks. Automotive industry, again, a pioneer in lean concepts, in manufacturing methods, and automation. See here, this is a factory making Model Fords. Over here, this is a Toyota factory, highly automated. Last photo here is the garment industry. Photo on the right is from 1930. Photo on the left is from last week. So you can see, over 100 years, very little has changed in the garment industry. Again, almost all the industries that were around 100 years ago and are still around today have completely been transformed. It's a bit of an irony. I find it ironic that the industry which gave birth to the Industrial Revolution is the one that's one of the least transformed industries today. And so today, we stand on the cusp of a new revolution. It's a revolution which will marry digital technologies with automation. It is a revolution which will give birth to highly flexible manufacturing processes. It's a revolution where we will see a network of highly connected enterprise systems that are fully integrated from raw material to end customer. How will we prepare ourselves for this? I stepped into my role here in YTI a little over a year ago, January 1st, 2017. I was appointed as Executive Vice President here at YTI. And I would say at the time, our organization was facing a series of challenges. These challenges were a result of us not adapting to changes in the industry and the marketplace, failure to embrace technology and automation. We did not prepare ourselves for the changes that our customer was making. We kind of just continued to do things as we always had, while our customer was moving 2 steps ahead of us, 3 steps ahead of us. We didn't make investments in the right place. We didn't make investments in people and infrastructure. So despite these challenges, actually what I saw here in Cebu, what we saw here, Raymond and myself, is actually an opportunity to rewrite the script here, reimagine what we're doing here in Cebu. So revolution is defined as a dramatic and wide-reaching change in the way something works, or something works or is organized or in people's ideas about it. And we ask ourselves, what can we do here in Cebu to revolutionize how we work here? So, it was with this question in mind that for the last 12 months, I've embarked, myself, Raymond, have embarked on a pretty amazing journey with 2 of our key partners. Renee from Adidas and Peter and David and team over at Ye Group. So I just want to give these guys a round of applause first, because they've been monumental to what we're doing here. So when we sat down at the drawing board and asked ourselves, what are we doing to map out the future for Cebu? How can we overcome our biggest obstacles? There are really 3 key things that we kind of identified, and we did some brainstorming to think how we can address it. One is in terms of low efficiency, productivity. How can we drive that up? How can we drive up efficiency? How can we lower our costs yet produce more? And this, we look towards automation and innovation. The second point, a lot of non-value added work, lack of transparency to myself, to our customer, even within the operation. How can we tackle that? And through that, we decided digitalization of our operations was a solution. And lastly, probably the most challenging obstacle that we have here in Cebu is the lack of a material supply chain. Some of you with factories in Vietnam, China, Cambodia, these places, you guys have a pretty mature supply chain. It's easy to get material from sources nearby. And for us in Cebu, we deal with long transit times to get material. And with this, we developed a material strategy roadmap. And so these 3 things I will talk about a little bit right now. So first, automation innovation. I want to start by saying that as an OEM, and Renee, I mentioned this actually in our meeting yesterday, as an OEM, YTI is very, very lucky to have a customer like Adidas. While Raymond said they drive us crazy, yes, sometimes they do, but Adidas is an organization who's very structured in how they operate. They have a very clear roadmap on where they want to be and where they want their vendors to be. And it doesn't stop there, though. They don't just give us a roadmap. They put energy, they dedicate resources, time, people to ensure that it happens. And so in terms of automation innovation, we've been working very closely partnering with the Adidas ME organization. And ME stands for Manufacturing Excellence. And this is an organization which is kind of at the front of manufacturing, at the front of the technologies that are available for manufacturing. And so when we were researching how we could increase productivity, how we can lower our costs through certain types of machine investment, we engaged the Adidas ME team, and every step of the way, we worked with them to define the elements of our factory. We ensured that what we were putting in place what kind of investments we're deciding to make were aligned with what the brand was trying to achieve. You know, building the factory from the ground up, it allowed us to work very closely with our customer, and also it allowed us to, I guess, have a clean slate to work with. And so we could design into the factory construction an optimal operational flow. One of the things, though, even though it's a new factory, we had moved from an existing factory into our new factory. So when you guys go there for the tour, you won't see shiny new machines. We didn't replace our machines. We had 2,000 something machines that we had moved into the new factory. Where we focused our investment, actually, is more on the larger, centralized equipment. And so you'll see some photos behind me here. We've made investments in a tunnel finisher, which can do 2,000 pieces per hour, replaces a lot of pressers. With auto folding and packing, which can fold 500 pieces per hour, and replaces a lot of manual work. Rail systems, a series of elevators and conveyors to move material around the factory. And so you'll see this on the tour, so I won't talk too much about it right now. So I want to kind of put everything in context for you a little bit, put some numbers behind what I'm talking about. With today, what you see on the tour, what we have in place, we're projected to save anywhere from about 40 to 60 manpower. So if you add up these numbers behind me, it's about 60 manpower, I think, over here. You add up all the numbers. And these are manpower saved through various operations, which we call non-value added operations. A lot of movement of material, movement of fabric, just manual recording of things. And so we eliminate that. What we can actually do is train these people to do different kinds of jobs, train them to be sewing operators, train them to be quality inspectors. And by the end of 2019, we actually developed a roadmap, a 3-year roadmap for all of our automation investments. And again, what we have today will save about 60 people. What we'll have by the end of 2019, our roadmap projects to save about another 40 to 60 manpower. So we're talking from anywhere from 120 to 140 people that we can reduce in doing non-value added work. All in all, that counts for about 3 to 4% of our total operations headcount. So it's very significant to our cost basis. So the second thing, digitalization of operations. Over this past year at YTI, I've spent most of my time actually working on a project called Get Connected. And their objective was to connect the factory. We want to eliminate non-value added work. With the traditional factory models, there's a lot of data that's being captured on paper. Then we have people put this in Excel. Then we have people generate reports and then send us all the reports. And usually this is production data, quality data. Raymond stole my lines earlier, but this is coming 1 or 2 days after the fact. With the traditional model, what it requires is that the factory managers are receiving this data and they're telling people what to do. They say, okay, well, based on this, do this, you do this, you do this. And really what we want to do at YTI is we've conceptualized a factory where every operation by itself has exactly the information it needs all the time, anytime. And therefore, we can actually empower the management team. We can empower the supervisors. We can empower the line leaders to use this data, to make judgment, to make decisions. And so not only do we take away all the decision making from the top, it used to be in the past that very few people make all the decisions. We want to create a factory where very many people are making a few decisions. And the idea is that with this way of operating, with all this information always available all the time, accurately, no matter where you are, no matter what process, what operation you're in, that the factory begins to operate in such an organic manner. So through the combination of digitalization and automation, we have a vision. Our vision is that everything just happens when it's supposed to happen. So I want you guys to imagine one day in your factory, accessories deliver themselves to the sewing line. Fabric delivers itself to the cutting room without any human intervention. cut panels, deliver itself to a sewing line whenever it's needed. Finished goods process themselves through metal detection, all the way to being put in the carton. And so this is a marriage of automation and digital technologies. And really, one of the big things that we are trying to do is that we want to eliminate a lot of the human input in a lot of these areas. And again, in the past, I talked just now how, I'm sure all of you have people whose job is just to encode things into an Excel file. That's their full-time job. Those kind of things, not only is that non-value added, but those things are prone to error. And so we want to eliminate the human element of that. We want the system to control all the factors based on a defined set of parameters. And I honestly believe that by doing so, we can streamline our process and maximize our operational efficiency. And so again, this is my vision for a connected factory. And while we're not quite there yet, what you'll see later today is phase one of this. My vision, again, everything just happens when it's supposed to happen. So, again, let me put some numbers behind what I'm talking about. Just through data collection, report generation, manual encoding, we project to save at least 12 manpower. And this headcount be trained to use computers, be proficient in computers, proficient in systems, proficient in data analysis. We can elevate the skills and the capability of the people, the workforce here in the Philippines, our own workforce. And again, in the past, I mentioned earlier, it takes us 1 or 2 days to get production data, quality KPIs, efficiency KPIs. That information, 0 days, anytime, anywhere, always correct. And lastly, a huge byproduct of what we're doing, which we didn't really think about this that much when we started it, but the more we do it, we realize how important this is. But we project to save over 400,000 pieces of paper a year through these digital initiatives. That's 4 million liters of water that's used to produce that paper. And so that's a major byproduct of what we're doing here in Cebu. And so I mentioned 3 things earlier. So the final thing that we asked ourselves when thinking about our future here in Cebu was really, how do we overcome the challenge of the material supply chain? Customers today are demanding shorter lead times. Raymond talked about it. Renee talked about it. Maybe 5 or 10 years ago, I think I wasn't in this business 5 or 10 years ago, but I'm sure everyone in this room, 120 days, is probably pretty standard. Today, I'm certain many of you are seeing your customers go to 90 days as the basic expectation. For us, in the Adidas world, 60 days is the standard. That's the assumed standard. 90 days is an exception. Anything above 60 is an exception. A significant portion of that 60 days is moving to 30 days. And I'll talk about that in a little bit. And so what you see behind me here is kind of the situation we're dealing with. And so we source fabric from the closest countries for us: Taiwan, Indonesia, Vietnam. For us, Taiwan's the closest country, 14-day transit. Indonesia, Vietnam, 21 days transit. And so think about our customer going to 30-day lead time. That's from PO receipt, 30 days. Imagine I spend 21 days just to get material. How can we possibly support our customers' objectives? So we came up with a material strategy here in Cebu. This was a solution that we developed. One that would eliminate long lead times while giving us flexibility to meet our customers' needs. And this is something that we have in place today. Our first phase of this roadmap is our joint venture with Ye Group called YTY. This started off last year. Actually, 2016 is when we established the business. We delivered our first bulk production last year to the customer. We developed a model where we always have certain fabrics in stock. And using digital technology, we can print to these fabrics, or we print to paper to transfer these fabrics. And what we do here does not require any ink, any water, so it doesn't require any roller engraving. And we can do all this within 30 days because the fabric is always in stock. And so later, when you go on the tour, you will learn more about this. And suddenly, the brands, designers, they're no longer tied down to roller costs. They're no longer tied down to long development calendars. No more MOQs. They want to make changes late in the development process. It's not a problem for us. So I'd like to put a little bit of what I just talked about the sublimation printing into perspective for you. So we do 2 seasons a year with Adidas. By SS19, our total business volume is about 6.7 million pieces, and 670,000 pieces will be sublimated styles. So that's about 10% of our total business. So almost half of that volume, 288,000 pieces, will be produced right here in Cebu in our YTY joint venture. And all those we can offer with a 30-day lead time. And so what this means is that our customer is going to 30 days, Adidas is going to 30 days, and by 2020, they expect 20% of their total volume to be on 30 days. So that would translate to 1.2 million pieces, assuming our business volume stays the same. And so now, in Cebu, we can contribute 4.3% of that 20% as a result of what we've established here. And again, in the past, because of the lead times for material, the transit times, Cebu is always contributing 0% to that 30 days. And so this is a major milestone for Cebu. And beyond just sublimation, through our YTY joint venture, we're currently exploring other technologies. Raymond mentioned dry dye earlier. Not sure if that's a technology we'll move forward with, but we're exploring other technologies to solid color fabric. So not only do we print, not only are we doing sublimation printing, but we want to be able to dye fabric. When I say dye, I don't mean in the traditional sense that all of you are thinking. And so being able to solid color fabrics, as well as have the sublimation print capability, that will really expand the reach of what we can do within 30 days. The second part of our material strategy is actually a project we've been working on, which Raymond mentioned, a project we've been working on with Sammy and his team at Tianhu. So we've been working on developing sweater knitting capability here in Cebu. We're very early in the conversation right now as far as that goes, but it's something that we believe will move forward quickly. And with our ability to do cut-sew product in YTI, with the technical capability that we have, along with knitting of sweater panels here in Cebu, gives us a few distinct advantages. So first, like the sublimation model, instead of staging PFP fabric, we can stage colored yarns here. And the way we work with Adidas is that we have to take a lot of material liability based on a forecast. So we order material ahead of PO receipt. Being able to keep that material in yarn form will actually minimize or reduce our material liability. In addition to that, you saw the map earlier, Taiwan is 14 days transit time, Indonesia, Vietnam is 14, 21 days, so we buy a lot of our material from Taiwan here in Cebu. Taiwan is not an ASEAN country, so our customer does not get any duty benefits to the EU. But with the knitting capability, when we put that here, we're looking at under GSP plus yarn forward rules, we can benefit from a 12% savings on duty when we import into the EU for Adidas. And so when we combine all these technologies, when we combine sublimation printing, the ability to solid color fabrics here in Cebu, and combine the ability to have different types of fabrications, knit panels, combined with cut-sew, mixed media product, what we can do here is drive speed initiatives at a much, much lower cost than we would normally be able to. And the most interesting thing is that the model I just described to you is actually not one that requires huge amounts of space, not one that requires a huge capital investment, doesn't require any water treatment. So I think that once our material strategy is fully executed, it will disrupt the industry because it's something that you can just copy and paste into any location. And through these technologies which we're putting in Cebu, we want to redefine what it means to be vertical. What makes a vertical supplier? So this guy in the photo behind me, his name is Klaus Schwab. He's the founder and executive chairman of the World Economic Forum, and he once said that there's never been a time of greater peril, of greater promise, or greater peril as it pertains to the digital revolution. And I think that's where we are today. Since the turn of the millennium, since the year 2000, almost half of the Fortune 500 companies have disappeared from that list. Why they disappeared? Because they did not embrace how the world is changing, how the markets are changing, how the consumers change, how behavior changes, how technology changes, advancements in technology, sustainability. They did not embrace these changes. And so how can we avoid becoming irrelevant as well? I believe that the blueprint we've drawn for the future is unique and exciting. Our connected factory, where everything just happens when it's supposed to happen, will be a paradigm of operational efficiency. Our material strategy that creates speed, flexibility, and embraces digital technologies will enable us to better serve our customer and respond to the markets. We'll be well equipped to be part of this revolution. With the partnerships that we've built with companies like Ye Group, with a mission to redefine vertical, with the support and the partnership of our customers like Adidas in transforming us into world-class operations, I'm confident that we're forging a path of sustainable shared success. That's the end of my speech. Thank you guys very much.